the maracas, I go chick, chicky, boom, chick, chicky, boom.
Welcome to No Laughing Matter with Cuba Pete, a show that takes a critical look at the disparities between medical school education and society's growing healthcare inequities. Join Dr. Pedro Cuba Pete Greer each episode as he interviews the experts working to transform medical education and ensuring that future doctors are trained to provide equitable and compassionate healthcare for all communities. Dr. Greer received the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2009, honoring his dedication to providing health care to underserved populations. As Dean of Roseman University College of Medicine in Las Vegas, Dr. Greer is committed to creating a medical school of the future where students embrace the need to unite the heart and science of healthcare. And now, the host of No Laughing Matter with Cuba Pete, Dr. Pedro Cuba Pete Greer.
Hi, how are you? And welcome to Cuba Pete. I'm Joe Greer, actually Pedro Jose Greer, but I came from a town that nobody could pronounce Pedro, so I went with Greer. Now, when I got out of med school and returned, nobody could pronounce Greer. It was Green, Guerra, Garcia. Anyways, I'm originally from Cuba, Miami, before coming out here. And we have this podcast where we bring in selected individuals that have done some incredible things to talk about the intersection of society, healthcare, and how do we change medical education, as we're going to be starting a medical school here in Las Vegas at the Roseman University College of Medicine, which is housed within the Roseman University School of Health Sciences, where we already have a dental school, a pharmacy school, and a nursing school and graduate nursing school. Today we have somebody very special because, in my opinion, what he does is more important than what all of us do. His name is Jermareon Williams. He is the Government Affairs Manager for the state of Nevada at Western Resources Advocate. Here's what the amazing thing about that organization. They fight climate change to sustain the environment, economy, and people of the West. Now, why is that important? Well, we know that in healthcare, climate change within itself adversely affects the poorest of the poor. And even when we're in South Florida, where they're at sea level and there's rising waters, the very poor, Little Haiti, for example, which used to be Lemon City, which is predominantly African American or African Haitian, is on the highest ground in South Florida, where the poorest people live. So what's happening now, especially with the great leadership that they have in that state? Folks with money are moving them out, because they want to be on the high ground. That way they don't have to pay for flood insurance, of which you can't get. But having said all that, so going off on a tangent, this is an incredible individual who was born and raised here in Las Vegas, as were his parents, and his grandmother made the trek out west. And while he was earning his BA in criminal justice at the UNLV, he was also getting a degree in film, which really sets him up importantly for what he does. Because when he was a senior in college, he got a job interning for Senator Reid, which was amazing, because there he went on also to work for Senator Rosen, and he was in charge, he was a liaison between public land and clean energy. Prior to going to the WRA, he was a small business manager for U.S. Senator Rosen, as I said, and liaisons, for Nevada, Native Americans, African Americans, and technical communities. Am I correct there? It was for Governor Reid that he did, Senator Reid that he did the first description of the liaisons. But tell me about what you do, just, and why you found that in your passion.
Yeah, for sure. So what I do now is I work with policymakers, the decision makers in Nevada to focus on clean energy and advancing our priorities with cutting emissions in our state. The reason why that's important is because if you look at the communities, and like you mentioned a little earlier, you have these communities that are mostly minority communities that are just unfairly just affected by climate change. And something that I'm particularly focused on right now is making sure we can cut out the emissions from those larger vehicles that are by those low-income communities. Because what you see is those low-income communities, those black and brown communities, are often by either freeways or just heavily polluted streets and roads. So,
and if I'm not mistaken, also polluted the land itself.
yes,
where
yes.
they live.
Yeah, and I have a story about that from like my time with Reed's office about how our Native American community, just Mwapa Band of Paiutes there in Nevada, how they had a power plant right by their reservation. And what happened with this is a lot of the members of that tribe, they were getting all the toxic chemicals in their community. So what they saw was birth defects. A lot of the tribal members got cancer. A lot of them were just affected from that power plant, and it was eventually shut down, but they're still being affected from that today. And that's what you see with these low-income communities or these minority communities. You see them, like, it seems like no one cares. Like, no one's hearing about their cry for help. And my role in this with WRA is to make sure that we're bringing them to the table. And what I was saying is, like, when you have these communities and you have these people that are by these major highways, these major roads, they're getting all the pollutants from these big 18-wheelers that are like driving by their communities.
And we know that families that live near a highway, the rate of childhood asthma is off the wall.
I got asthma, unfortunately. And it could have been mostly caused from that because, so my mom, she's a respiratory therapist now, but when I was younger, she was going through college. So we lived in a lot of those communities, right? And it was, I can imagine being a parent now, how sad that was to see her son go out and play basketball and come back in the house and now he's wheezing and she doesn't know what to do. So I'm at like quick care every night because like my chest just feels tight and it's hard for me to get oxygen. And I can't imagine the amount of people who are dealing with that every day.
And for those of you that aren't aware of how asthma works, it's a bronchospasm. It's a spasm of the tubes that you bring air in. The problem isn't so much bringing air in as you can't get the air out. And so it's in essence, a person with an acute asthmatic attack is drowning. That's the closest you can correlate with that. And that's what we're putting our children through.
Yeah. And our goal is to make sure that we no longer have to put our children through that.
And even with climate change, with the extremely hot summers and extremely cold winters, the most vulnerable communities many times can't afford air conditioning or heaters.
No.
So if you have kidney disease, especially if you're in the South, because there you have a lot of humidity, you lose a lot of volume.
Yeah.
And we're told, even in the summertime, you're out here in the Southwest, make sure you have water in your car in case the car breaks down.
Yeah, and you see that even in northern Nevada, where a lot of the low-income communities, the gas bills are high right now. So you see a lot of the low-income communities, can they afford to keep the heater on and running throughout this winter where it's like extremely cold? And those are things that we have to look at. And that's what we are doing at Western Resource Advocates. We're making sure that these communities are heard. And we're making sure that when we go into these rooms with decision makers or policymakers or commissioners, that we're communicating from all communities of what's being told to us and what's happening on the ground. And that's part of I love this role. I'm having a blast doing it. But that's part of the reason why like I wake up with like this renewed motivation to help those communities, because I remember I just know what it's like to be that kid and having to go to, like you said, go to the quick care to get a breathing treatment just to help me breathe a little better.
So not only does it have a huge economic impact.
Yes.
I'm just going to urgent care center.
Yeah.
That alone. So the impact is not only towards society, but the high impact on individuals and their families that we don't take into account. And this is, we're right now in an inflationary period where those that are living on the edge just moved a little closer to it and sacrificing between, do I get gas for work or do I get food for the family, which are realities that exist. So I'm putting together with this incredibly talented group of people a whole new medical school. We had started one in South Florida with the very first new curriculum. We were the first ones in North America to actually teach social determinants or the non-biologic causes of disease. Needless to say, climate change is the biggest one. So if you were to present this at a medical school, how would you do it? Because, and not just as a course, okay? Because one of the things is doctors don't understand what policy is. They think policy is advocacy. Policy and policy analysis is a very complex econometric game where you actually present to leaders different options and this is what we need done, and you push for that policy to be written and implemented. So how would you bring this to a medical school? The way I'm thinking about it is I want every student on every disease to give me what are the disparities that exist in society.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, and how to help, like, because we need solutions. We need. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say we need solutions, and we need ways to try to cut these emissions in the community.
Would it be helpful to you if you were up in Carson City and you had 20 medical school students and professors saying, make our life easier.
Please.
Make our life easier.
That would make my job so much easier. I might not even have to do this no more. I'll make it so easier because...
No, we don't want to take your job away, for goodness sakes. We need you.
Well, I appreciate that, but this is what we need. So there's a bill that I'm looking at right now that WRA is supporting. It's Assembly Bill 184. So what this bill does, it provides incentives to any agency, business owner, like any like group that's looking to electrify their big buses and trucks, right? Why that's important is because these vehicles, it's only 5% of them on our roads, right? But they contribute to 30% of our emissions. So if we can get a lot of these vehicles off the road, or if we can get them electrified, and that's what we want to do, because we can't get them off the road. They're going to be there because there's your UPS drivers, there's your mail trucks, there's your semi trucks that's delivering cargo across the state. But if we can electrify these larger trucks and buses, it can eliminate a lot of the harmful emissions that we're seeing on our roads every day.
Which is, first of all, you said you were describing the bill, the importance of policy and the importance of doing work and the econometric or the very mathematical aspect. It's a very quantitative game, actually.
Yeah.
And to say, wow, if I target, 5%?
Yeah, 5%.
If I target 5% of the vehicles, I multiply the result by 6. I've just cut the emissions by 30%.
Yeah.
That all of a sudden is a huge impact. Where those of us that are not well informed on this would say, just get rid of all, fossil fuel cars. But first of all, that's not going to happen.
Not anytime soon.
Not anytime soon, number one. And number two, you're going to give the biggest effort to go for 70% where you might get 10% of that.
Yeah.
So you actually cut 7% as opposed to cutting 30%.
Well, and we're going to get to a point, and when I say not anytime soon, I mean, we're going to get to a point where a lot of the cars that we see on the road are electric cars. But it's expensive. It's expensive. You need more stations to plug them into chargers. Well, we use electric cars in our Genesis program. Oh, I love that.
And we did that for two reasons. Number one, it's cheaper. But number two, when we put together our teams that go out to help the most vulnerable, and we have 90 families we take care of so far, are you really going to take a person that you pay by the hour and say, now you got to pay for all the gas?
Yeah.
And the maintenance of your car? Who are we to put that burden on somebody?
Yeah.
So and also the cars get wrapped by different artists. So they're really cool looking cars, and then they have different messages. And one of them we might want to consider in the future to get an artist to wrap one on based on the environment and climate change, especially out here. I mean, in many ways, Nevada could be such a progressive state. I mean, look at our water conservation. I mean, we actually lead the world in that sort of policy, which makes it interesting now, because now I live in a state where it's illegal to grow grass, but not to buy it or smoke it. But you can't grow it. That's limited to the grow houses. But it's changing the way, because when you go to Carson City, remember, our legislative bodies meet only once every 2 years.
Yeah.
For 3 months. And there's a lot of people you need to talk to get a bill passed. There's a lot of backroom that goes on, because you got to talk to the staff, you got to talk to the actually elected individual, and then you pray that the bill passes.
Yeah.
But this is a state that cares about itself. This is a state that really wants to make it better. And having individuals like you, I can see why the state is like this. I mean, they produced you.
I appreciate that.
You know, so hopefully we produce the same thing on those that we elect.
I hope so, and I think we're getting to that point. And like so we meet for 120 days for the Nevada legislative session, and our leaders, they're so accessible. They're so like willing to have these conversations, and I do want to give them that credit. And
I tell you, I was up in Carson City, I guess a couple weeks ago or a week ago, and I was amazed by how friendly they were.
Yeah.
I came from a state where it's a little different.
Yeah. Well, and so like so to the point, like I know I said like our electric vehicles are expensive, and they are, but so that's why it's important to provide these incentives. So like what this bill does is it provides incentives for a lot of these larger trucks and vehicles that are super expensive, and it helps like bring the price down. So it's making it more affordable for our businesses, because you can't ask for a business to electrify their trucks and buses and not provide them any incentives to do so. So like,
well, I agree with you. It was the same thing when we were getting rid of plastic bags.
Yeah, you have to provide the means to do so, because not every small business owner can just afford a $500,000 semi truck. So that's why we're providing this. Assemblyman Howard Watts is providing this incentive, and that's why WRA is supporting this bill.
Good, because. Excuse me, I work with actually a policy analysis, which is the RAND Corporation.
Okay.
And so I'm a trustee there, and I've been with them for about 30 years. But I remember with our graduate students, when they first passed the policy of using canvas bags, great idea for the environment. What's the economic stimuli?
Yeah.
Welcome to reality.
Yeah.
You know, just because it's the right thing to do, you have to do it in a way that's equitable for all of society.
Exactly.
So, are you guys involved in anything with elementary, middle, or high school students?
I would love to. I would love to.
Because we do a thing also called Aspire, because what we're looking for, I would love to have a school of all first-generation college students.
Yeah.
And we even have a graduate school there to prepare them for medical or dental school or pharmacy
That'd
school.
be perfect.
And we throw talent away in this country like crazy. We just do. But Dr. Cheryl Brewster, who runs Aspire, when we have this program called A Rose Grows in the Desert,
Love that.
is we bring in middle school to high school kids with their parents. And at this last session we had, you have a nutrition table, you have a place where they learn how to work with drones, how to fly drones and program them. Yeah. Another one there that was with the library, which was some other electronic things for the kids. We had a farmer to teach them about the soil and how to do. And what we do is we take the time also to talk to the parents to explain to them how there's a good return on investment at college level. It really is. Yeah. Even though it's not short term, it's long term. But the other point is, first generation kids tend to stay, and we need doctors.
Yeah, that's true.
Number two, it's the first time in that family's history they have the opportunity for generational wealth. Yeah. And I'm not talking Bill Gates, but I'm talking you can own a home, you can pay for your kids' college. Exactly. My father was the first one in our family to go to finish high school, much less go to college. And he got to see his granddaughter graduate from Harvard Law School.
That's amazing.
So that was incredible. I went to a state school.
Hey, I did too. Let's not down a state school.
That's right. I just married up. That was it. The work that you do is probably the most important work. It's more important than a surgeon.
Oh, I appreciate
because you're taking care of not just what's going on now, for future generations. Yeah. Setting the base for what we need to do. And that forward thinking. By the way, how was that instilled in you?
So I thought
you're studying criminal justice and film, and then you end up in climate change.
Yeah, and I really wanted to study film. That was like my main focus. But so I guess like I didn't plan on going to climate change at all. Like my goal was to become the next Hollywood director and do that. But I guess like it gets started because when I did that internship with Senator Reid and I got a chance to join his staff. I joined as I was working the front desk first, and then my mentor in this space, he was leaving to run for office, so I kind of like wanted to fill in his position. So before he left, we drove around Las Vegas, and he showed me all the conservation groups that I can work with, the public lands that's out here. We have so much public land in Nevada. He showed me that, and we were just on that drive, and I was like, okay, I get it. Like, this is important, and this is something I want to be a part of. So I was promoted to the position that he was leaving behind, and I got a chance to meet these groups and learn these issues, and it just stayed with me. It stayed with me, and even when I moved to Senator Rosen's office, and I was the small business manager for her office, but I still always had, like, I wanted to get back into this role and into this space, and being back in it now, like I'm just learning once again how important this is for our community, and how needed this is for our groups, and like being a Black man myself, and knowing how this affects my communities and other minority communities, I take that personal. I take that a little personal, and I want to make sure that that these communities have the same fresh air that other communities have. They have the same access to public lands.
And the same opportunities, because
exactly.
What people don't realize is it's sort of akin to a plant will not grow well in contaminated soil.
Yeah.
Neither will a child.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point.
And so, do we really want to be a nation that throws away talent, that makes people suffer? Or do we want to be a nation that takes a lead in this world and says, this is what needs to be done? By the way, we're not just being good people, but the reason we're pushing this is if you don't have a good economy, people suffer.
Exactly.
And so what you're presenting is, hey, let's improve the economy, but at the same time, doubly improve our air quality.
Let's do it. I got a chance to know both issues really well with economy and how we want people to work. But if people are sick because of pollution and because of bad air quality, then they're missing work.
Not only are they missing work, look at the cost of the healthcare system.
Yeah.
Of which is now almost 19% of our GMP.
Yeah.
And we know that the poorer you are, the higher the possibility of getting sick from something, because you've been exposed to all these different things.
Exactly.
And it's important to teach that. So the medical students, I would love to see it where they go and support you when you're up there. Send them all up in white coats.
Okay.
It's always an impressive picture.
That'll make it great.
And then they'll send a picture to their parents. But teach them how to be advocates. How to be advocates, because I really take it personally when I am told, stay in my lane. Well, if it crosses into my lane, then guess what? It's now my lane. They talk to us about, who are we to talk about gun violence? Well, we get them in the EDE.
Yeah.
What do you mean, who are we to talk about it?
Yeah.
Not only that, a smart policy worker would say, you want to cut down gun violence? Well, 60 to 80% of all gun deaths are suicide. Let's improve our mental health system.
Yeah.
Let's improve the regulations on how you get a gun. Nobody's saying don't get it. What we're saying is, the amount of crime has increased as we sell more guns.
Yeah.
So, let's look at it, the true safety of what our society is and the balance that we need to be able to make that work. That's called democracy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought so. I forgot about that. But we need you to lecture at our medical schools.
Okay. No, I can be there.
But not just to the students. I need you to lecture to the faculty.
Okay.
I need you to have them be the ones that understand and why they have to get this. This is not just a course material. We want to create the future workforce that actually makes a huge change.
We do.
That actually makes us the healthiest nation in the world.
Yeah.
And we're not going to do that through medicine, because it's not health policy that makes people healthier. It's the policies that affect health.
Exactly. Oh, that's
Climate change, social, public, and all these different, transportation, employment, living wages, those things. So first of all, let me start off by saying thank you to your parents.
Thank you.
But most importantly, your grandmother, because she was the one that schlepped you guys out here. Okay?
Yeah.
So good job.
I appreciate it.
Tallulah,
Louisiana.
Tallulah, Louisiana. And I'm from the South. You think I could pronounce that, but it's Louisiana. They're half French. Yeah. So they just make up these names that I can never pronounce. But the city of Las Vegas, the state of Nevada, and actually the country, you having worked with 2 senators, have been blessed because of that trip.
Yeah.
And also your mom going back to college.
Yeah, yep.
I mean, that was a major thing. I really want to let you know it's been a true honor, and it's humbling to meet somebody like you.
Thank you.
A young man that's devoted his life to whatever he wants, gave up film.
Yeah.
You could have been a director, but then you'd have to live in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the traffic out there is terrible.
It is.
But what you're doing impacts so many.
Thank you.
And most importantly, the patients that we take care of. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So, live from Studio A, unless you see it recorded, it's live when I'm saying this. It's Mr. Williams and Joe Greer, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce his first name again because I'm going to mess it up. So, from Studio A, let's think about how we make this world healthier. And thank you all for your support.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe, like, and comment on your favorite podcast platform. If you'd like to support the groundbreaking work that Dr. Greer is doing at the Roseman University College of Medicine, please donate at the link below. Thanks for tuning in to No Laughing Matter with Cuba Pete, as together we work to unite the heart and science of healthcare to serve all in our communities. See you next time.